Please have extra. Oh, this is wobbly. That's okay. Sorry, I have ADHD, y'all. It's going to be great. Me too. Thank you. I see you. I feel you. Have a little extra, not that y'all don't give off gracious vibes, but just have some extra grace for me tonight. I am going through the worst sinus infection ever. Is anybody miserable? Thank you. Team sinus infection. Awful. So I'm hyped up on a copious amount of Sudafed and a 6 p.m. coffee. And so for me, yeah, I might just be shaking a little, so that's okay. Tonight, like everyone said, my name is Megan, and I'm so excited to be with y'all. Tonight, I wanted to be able to start with talking to y'all about my mom. Oh, sweet Melissa. She is a saint. Guys, I'm silly and I didn't include a picture of her, but if you want to see a picture of her after, just come ask me. I have some cute ones of her. She is hilarious and amazing. She is a woman that taught me about Jesus from a very young age, showed Jesus in her patience and in her kindness. She was the type of parent that didn't lash out. She was just a really, really beautiful example of Jesus. But one negative, if I would have had to say, of my saintly mother, is that she's quite gullible. And what's interesting is if any of you have a gullible parent, you learn that when you're a small child and you are also gullible, the gullible parent will tell you things that they believe are true in the depths of their heart. They're not trying to be mischievous. They're telling you these things, and then you carry them into adulthood. You marry somebody who's really skeptical, and then you just say these things like they're truth, and you just get this look like, what are you saying right now? And it's awful. It is awful. So for example, y'all, I'm going to give y'all a legitimate example. And like I said, you marry a skeptic. My husband, I love him. His skepticism serves us really well sometimes because I can still be fairly gullible. But when I married him, I was talking with him one day. And again, this has resurfaced multiple times, not just with my husband, that my mom made me look really dumb. How many of y'all are from Houston? Anyone? Any Houstonian? Let's go, 281, let's go. I don't rep Houston all the time. I don't get the chance to very often. But there is this thing in Houston that a lot of y'all probably know about. It is now condemned, but it is called the Astrodome, right? How many of us are familiar with the Astrodome, right? It's this huge structure, and what's wild is you just have to walk by it, and it's just because it's condemned. You can't do anything with it. Well, it's really silly. Not silly. It was really cool when it was built in the 1950s. It was an innovation. The dome that they put on it was wild, and it was amazing. And my mom, I guess, had read a newspaper article, bless her heart, that had described it as the 8th wonder of the world. And she, as Caitlin and Emmy, to this day, believes that it is on the list with the Taj Mahal, with the Great Wall of China, and I did too until I was 27 years old, and my husband was like, that is not a wonder of the world, babe. That's just something people say when they have something that's cool. And I was like, no, it's a wonder. My mom said so. Cool. So I have that realization a lot when Jake's like, hey, who told you that? I'm like, my mom. And so then I realized she was trying her best, but she just believes that kind of stuff. And so that in all is very silly and a funny way to start service. But what I wanted to talk with y'all today is something a little bit more serious than that, is that for a lot of us, we are thinking and living and acting in a way that is incorrect, and we aren't really even realizing it. And what it's doing is it's taking us in the opposite direction of where we're wanting our lives to go, where God wants our lives to go, where we say we even want our lives to go. And for some of us, these decisions, what's really crazy is some of them are happening subconsciously. We don't even realize that we're doing it, and we're slowly taking these steps that we don't even realize. And then there are other times in which we are actively choosing, but we're like, it's not that big of a deal. It's a small thing. How much of a difference could it make? So you take one small step, and then you're 2 weeks later, you're it's another small thing. I'll take another step. And then you keep doing that, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I didn't go that far. And you're like, well, you did go that far. And you're like, I took small steps. And well, you took 9 small steps. So that took you further than you ever even realized. And so because of this, you guys, I think that it is important for us to realize that if we want this life, and I keep pointing over here, I don't know why this is where the life is that we're wanting. If we're wanting this life that Jesus talks about, this life that we feel called to, this life that is lived abundantly, we have to start actively seeking wisdom when it comes to the decisions, the choices, the things we think. We have to start actively seeking wisdom. And here's the thing. I think when we think about wisdom a lot of the time, we think of it as this very lazy trait to have. And I think it's because we think of old people being wise, so we think you can't be active in it. When you're becoming wise, it is not just something that you're gonna wake up one day and you're like, oh, I am so wise. It is a process. It is constant. The reason why older people are wise is because they've gone through this really long process of doing it. And they recognize that it was an active process. Because you guys, if you're not being active in it, like I'm gonna talk about in a little bit, you're gonna go the wrong direction if we're not being active with it. And so there are two things that I want to ask y'all to kind of start, and something that I kind of want y'all thinking about as I continue talking. And the very first thing is, what are you allowing to determine the direction of your life? And the second thing is, who are you allowing to determine the direction of your life? What and who are you allowing to determine this direction? And here's the thing, if you don't have an answer, there is something, you just don't know it yet. And hopefully as we continue to talk, we can uncover what it is that is directing your life so that we can start to fix that and go in the direction that we are wanting, that we are called to go. So there are three ways that you can be going. And the first way is Jesus' way. I'm pretty sure Emmy talked about these a little bit last week. You got Jesus' way. Life abundant, the easy yoke, all these really awesome things, the things that we say that we really want. Then we have the opposite of that, which is Satan's way, which sounds very intense. I know that's really intense, but at the same time, it is intense, and we need to know that because it is going to be whatever is opposing Jesus' way. And then the third is my way. And what's really interesting about your way, my way, when we want to do that is this is actually a really, really tricky thing because it is this really selfish desire, and the enemy is so happy when we are focused on our own desires, when we are focused on what is best for me, what is going to serve me the best here, what is my way in this situation, that actually there isn't a third way. Your way is actually equal to Satan's way. That is, we are sinful beings. We are going to make the wrong decisions. Your way is going to be in opposition to Jesus' way. Your flesh is going to take you in the opposite direction of the way that Jesus is calling you. And so that's one of the things we have to know tonight. And that's why I'm saying, some of us subconsciously are making decisions that are focused on ourselves and serving ourselves really well. And what we don't realize is that is pulling us in the wrong direction. One of the ways I think that this happens in our world is this phrase, this concept, following your heart, right? Yes, it is so common. I even have some quotes for y'all that I grabbed. The great Paula Abdul, she said, break the rules, stand apart, ignore your head, follow your heart. This one doesn't have an author, but your heart is free. Find the courage to follow it. And then Steve Jobs said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. The world is going to tell you to follow your heart. It is going to serve you well. But here's the thing, guys. If you were to think of maybe a list of 10 people that you've interacted with today, some people you'd be like, I'm okay with them following your heart. Other ones, I do not. I do not want them to be following their heart because I don't know that their heart is in the right place. And this realization that if we're just telling everyone, yeah, you do you live your truth, there is no moral compass on that is helping us make the decisions that are the best for everyone and not just you. Because here's the thing, if you're following your heart, something might serve you quite well. But is it going to serve your neighbor as well? And is that really the loving thing to do if you're only being focused on yourself the entire time? And guys, we are sold this lie because when we really all sit and think about it, there have been times where all of us have followed our heart and we realize that that was not very kind, that was not very loving, that was not very compassionate. We realize that our hearts really do come up with some terrible, terrible ideas when we're led by our hearts. And here's the thing, Jeremiah, he knew this. He knew this. We see in Jeremiah 17:9, he says, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Guys, he said, the heart is deceitful. Your heart is going to deceive you. It is going to tell you to do things that are in direct opposition of the ways that God is telling you to live. And when we listen to it, somehow we think we're doing the right thing because it feels good. The heart is so deceptive and it's able to tell you, you're like, yeah, that is right. Like you should say that to that person because they did do, yeah. And you feel good. You feel proud. But it's only when we realize that our heart is truly deceitful that we can start recognizing that and change it. Here we are. Sorry, team. Oh, without a check on your heart, you guys, we are toast. I literally wrote there. We're toast. Like we are toast without some kind of a check on our heart. And God is so clear here that he can provide this check on our heart. And so when we realize this, we must recognize that, one, there are places where we are following our hearts that we do not realize. And we have got to start enacting active wisdom to change that. So we have to start choosing Jesus' way. And in John chapter 14, verse 6, Jesus' way is very clear here. It says, maybe. I can read it from here. Jesus told them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is the only way. He is the correct way, and he is the way that we have to choose daily. I feel like there are probably some of you in here today that you're sitting here and you're like, yep, I've probably been picking my way. Like maybe not, I haven't been as aware, maybe I was aware, but yeah, I've definitely, because I'm looking around and I'm feeling like I am not going in the direction. When I look around, I feel like my life is not reflecting the life that I say I want to live. And here's the thing, you guys, the way that you end up on the path that is Jesus' way is choosing daily to follow him. I think that's one of the things that's lost, similar to like we think wisdom is like just this thing you get. Like we think following Jesus, for some reason we forget that following is like active. So that's why I added in actively following Jesus. Like it creates movement in our lives. This is the act of dying to ourselves and choosing his way. You are called to actively follow Jesus. It's not just this decision that we make and then we're good to go. It is something that is active. Oh, and I tried to skip a point. Sorry, team. Okay. The other big thing about this too is, you guys, simply believing in Jesus isn't enough. And this is the way that we can get to this active faith that I was talking about. Simply believing in Jesus is not enough. James talks about this in his letter. He says, in the same way, it's James chapter 2, verse 17 through 19. In the same way, faith by itself good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. Satan knows there's a God. He absolutely knows knowledge of him is not enough. And I'm not standing up here today to get in an argument with you about like faith versus works. Like that's a way different topic for a whole different time. But what James is saying here is knowing Jesus, knowing his way, knowing the sacrifice that he made so that we can go on that way, should cause us to transform the way we speak, the way we think, the way we treat people around us. It should cause a transformation inside of us. And that's what he's talking about here. And I feel like a lot of us are sometimes like, well, yeah, I know Jesus, but are we actively following him. Actively following him. I feel like there's a really, and again, I'm slamming y'all with a bunch of Bible verses, but you're at church, so it's acceptable. So one of the best pictures I feel like that I see of this active kind of faith that continues to play out for me is when we see the disciples in the boat, and this is where we're going to catch Peter, and he's going to get to walk on water. And so we're going to go to Matthew chapter 14, verses 25 through 31. And go along with me. It's a little long, but you'll be good. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately answered them, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." And this is Peter's response. "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come out onto the water." "Come," he said. And then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You have little faith," he said. "Why did you doubt?" What I really think is cool here is when we look at Peter and this action, the very first thing he says here is, "Lord, if it's you," saying like, if it is you, only if it's you, tell me to come out. He's not, if it was somebody else, like, no, you should not go out. But he's saying, if it's you. And once he got that confirmation, he moved. He got the confirmation from Jesus, hey, this is the way, and he immediately moved. He had an active faith. And like I said, if the figure had said something along the lines of like, it's not me, I'm not Jesus, like, and he wanted to like take a dip because that's what his heart wanted to do, we would say probably not the best idea, right? Like, do not follow your heart, Peter. Do not follow your heart. Go ahead but because he knew it was Jesus, he had that confirmation, he moved. He moved in the direction of Jesus. He was active with his faith. So when we get confirmation of the way of Jesus, we have got to move in that direction. And it was a bold move. If anything, Peter's heart was probably telling him like, nope, no, maybe not. Probably not the best decision. Like I can't even imagine like what was going through his head when he kept moving in faith. I feel like, I don't know, if I was him, I'd be like, I was kidding. I'm good. Like, I'm going to stay here. But he doesn't, and he moves. And I think the extra beautiful picture that we have here is, guys, we're not expected. We know, God knows that it's not going to be perfect when we're walking along this path. So this path that is Jesus' way is filled with grace. It's filled with goodness. It's filled with moments of sinking and Jesus immediately pulling us up and reminding us that he's got us the whole entire time and reminding us that our faith can be built on him and not having to worry about the wind and the waves that are around us, that we can continue to focus on him. I think so often when people look at this scripture, like they feel like Jesus is like berating him, but like I don't see that. I don't see that at all. I see him telling like Peter, like, hey man, like why are you doubting? Like you were just walking on water. Like do you see what was just happening? You were walking, you listened, you did it. Like, why'd you doubt? And it's because Peter started to look around instead of focusing on the way that Jesus had called him to do. And so, oh gosh. Okay, application-wise, you guys, I always like a good application that comes with these messages. The very first thing that we have got to start doing is to stop following your heart. Stop following your heart. Stop thinking that you have the best intentions always, that you're always going to be right, that you have the best idea of what is loving, because you don't. I don't. There is no possible way. When I think of some of those quotes, honestly, of like, oh, just follow your heart, do what your heart would say, I think of me trying to like parent my 8-year-old and his like 6-year-old brother throwing something like his Switch or something like that. If I were to be like, hey, Coop, just do what your heart says to do here, buddy. He would go smack him upside the head immediately. That's what his heart says. And so I think it's crazy that somehow we think that as we've gotten older, like we have a better understanding of like our hearts, and like our hearts become pure all of a sudden when we like hit our 20s. Like, no, not at all. So we've got to stop thinking that we have this pure heart because God clearly tells us it's going to deceive us over and over again. And so one of the things that you can be asking yourself, I have like 2 questions that you can be asking yourself when that can help you stop following your heart is this for me or is this for the continuation of the kingdom? Is it for me or is it for the continuation of the kingdom? And that can be a fairly deep question, but another question that I think that you can ask yourself is, will this decision, will this choice produce fruit? And I forgot to add the verse up here about the fruit of the Spirit, but the fruit of the Spirit can be found in Galatians. It's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I see some of you already singing along with that. Great memory tool. But that's what, there's no way to make a decision that's in the way of Jesus that's going to produce a fruit that is opposite of one of those. That is not possible. Now, we have a worldly understanding sometimes of what peace looks like, of what love looks like, and all of those things. But that is a pretty fair understanding of hey, if I'm about to go do this and it's not going to produce one of these fruits right here, I'm probably going my own way instead of Jesus's way. That has caught me a lot to be able to recognize and understand this. I'm probably serving myself in this. In parenting, you guys, I serve myself in parenting all the time. I'm like, how can I make this situation stop the quickest? And let me tell you, patience, no, patience is not one of those things that seems to get a situation to stop quickly when I want it to stop. And so the recognition that I have not given God, I have not moved in the way of Jesus in my parenting, I have got to recognize that and see that lack of the fruit of the Spirit in my parenting. And here's the other thing. You're not going to get a clear-cut answer every time. You'll not. Situations change, seasons change, people change. And so what for you at one point was the thing that God wanted you to be doing could be very different in another season of your life. And what I mean by this is I was talking with a friend one time about the idea of conviction. And what is convicting for me may not be convicting for you. Now, there are certain things that all of us need to be convicted of. Hear me say that. I'm not saying that there are sins that if you're not convicted, it's okay. No, not saying that. But what I am saying is sometimes there are certain relationships that you could be in with someone that later on in your life, God's no, that is not what I want for your life right now. And when he convicts you and you choose to ignore it, that's when you're choosing to go your own way. But if something is producing the fruit in all of those kinds of things, just be thinking of that. So that was confusing, but talk to me about it after if you want more talking about it, because I love chatting about that. So we're going to stop following our heart, and we're going to start actively following Jesus. And I feel one of the best ways that you can start actively following Jesus is by training your heart to look more like Jesus's heart. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect. You have to constantly be checking it. You have to constantly put these parameters around it of saying I'll tell you in a second. You constantly put these parameters around it, but that's what it is active. If you hear anything from my talk tonight, I hope you've heard the number of times I've said the word active. Our faith is meant to be active. And so a couple of the ways that you can do that is, number 1, time spent in the Word. It's kind of ironic because I didn't open up my Bible. I had my verses here. I promise I have. But you are not going to know Jesus' way if you don't open up this book and see it. This book is filled with the characteristics of God. This book is filled with God's calling to his people. It is filled with all of those things. Reading this will protect you from false teaching. Reading this will let you know if something is in the direction, is going to move you in the way of Jesus. You've got to be in your word. I think that is something that I continue to learn more and more about, is the more that I'm in the word, I feel like God reveals his character to me constantly, new things I didn't realize about him, or a new understanding of how a certain character that when I was young, I was oh man, God seems really angry here. And as I've gotten older, I'm no, he was creating provision. It is really essential that y'all are spending time in the word to know even the direction that you are trying to go. To know what Jesus means in John 10:10 when he says, I came to give life and to give it abundantly. To know what that even means. So that's the first thing you can do to train your heart. The second thing is to spend time with other people who love Jesus. I'm not saying spend your time only with people who love Jesus, but this is beautiful. Y'all CG groups, beautiful, incredible, amazing. Y'all are spurring each other on. That is significant. You are iron sharpening iron. That is so helpful to be able to lift each other up, to be able to ask questions, to be able to grow with people who you know. Say, I love Jesus, and I want our relationship to be built on the strength of that. And on that same note, if you don't currently have somebody who is a couple steps ahead of you, who is older than you need that. You need somebody. You need a mentor. You need someone who you get coffee with, who you can learn from, who you can, and I'm not, like, this is a personal, like, you need somebody that you can have a personal conversation with. For as much as I love some of the things that we can get on social media, and that we can hear from all of these really wise, intelligent people, like, we need somebody that has a personal connection that can hold us accountable, that we can ask really good questions to. So if you don't currently have a mentor, find one. Honestly, it has been the most life-giving thing for me to have a mentor and to be able to experience what it's like to have somebody to be able to shoulder my burdens with, to be able to look ahead and be like, how did you deal with this? How did you parent through something like this? And just this reminder that, like, you're going to make it through. Y'all need somebody that's going to tell you, like, hey, your 20s are not as easy as people made it out to be. The things that are like, that you're dealing with, the mental games that you're dealing with, all of these things, you need somebody that's on the other side of it that says, like, hey, listen, like, I've been there, I've done that. These are the things that worked. These are the ways I screwed up. These are the ways that I decided to go my own way. So don't do that. Go ahead and do this, and you can be going in the direction of Jesus. So find a mentor. And the last thing is, spend time talking to Jesus. Spend time talking to God, you guys. This is something that has been pretty, it's been something I've been focusing on a lot, like the concept of prayer, how to, like, understand prayer. It's something that is so, I haven't understood quite enough as I've gone through my Christian faith. But the beautiful thing is, there are prayers in the Bible that are spelled out for you. Psalms is filled with prayers. You can go and you look at those. If you're like, I don't know how to pray, go look at the Lord's Prayer. Repeat it over and over and over again. And I guarantee you, what feels like repetitive and redundant is going to become inscribed on your heart. It's going to remind you about the provision that God has in your life and where he should be every single day when you're waking up. And the more time that you're spending with God, whether it's in your Bible, whether it's praying, whether it's talking to other people, the more your heart begins to look like the heart of Jesus. And that's what we want. We're still not going to trust it. We're still not going to trust our heart. Once again, like I said, we're putting parameters on it always. These earrings are really messing with this. We're still going to put parameters on it. But at least we know that we're moving in the right direction when our heart starts to reflect more of the heart of Jesus. And it's such a beautiful feeling to feel that. To feel like your heart looks like our Savior that sacrificed everything for us. And that's the goal. So, God desires an abundant life for you. He wants an abundant life for you. That is his call on your life. And the only way that we're going to be able to get to that is to stop following our heart and start actively following Jesus' way. Would y'all pray with me?